So it's January 8th, 2018. I keep screwing that up in earlier videos. I didn't get a lot of time to work on the Miata and the Astre today. It was a very nice day out, so I had to play with the BMW, had the window down, couldn't get it back up, so I got that fixed. And I got some new pieces from JD Squared in to do tubing bending and notching, so it was Christmas here at the Jim's Garage Adventure garage, so we opened presents and put those together and ordered some new pieces. So let me kind of explain what we're doing right now. Earlier when I had, Miata's on the ground now, but earlier when I had the Miata up in the air and leveled and everything, I went along and measured in 3D space where this panel was on this side of the car, and widths and things like that. So I wanted to create an XYZ datum system relative to the center line. So you can see here we're about 52 3/8 across from this outside seam, and that's 0 in, I guess you could call it Y. X is across, Y is center line of the car, and then from the bottom of the floor pan I measured up about 22 7/16. So I'm going to use that as my, what did I say, Y0, and I'll build everything off of this. So I just kind of went along that frame rail and measured what XYZ was all the way across. And then I did some up here also to see where we're going to be able to tie in the cowl and everything else. Another thing that I did was I attached a plumb bob to the side of the car, so this surface here was basically straight. So I attached a plumb bob up here, let the string drag here, and put it about in the same spot from this body line down to the floor, and measured across, and I came up with about 29¼ inches wide. So that's what I'm going to be trying to determine on the Miata, or on the Astre, what that width is. So I took a piece of 1x1 square tubing and my adjustable jacks and kind of picked a decent flat spot on the floor pan of the Astre to locate where Z0 was on the Astre. So what I'm hoping to do is overlap the Miata floor pan on the bottom of the Astre. So I'm using that as my 0 point. This is the center line that I attached, a while back of the Astre, which is 24 7/8 up from that floor pan location. So I went along and I attached, I know, double level, but I'm using big levels of straight edge because you can't get that perfect. And I set that at 1/10 of a degree. So we got that all leveled out. And what I wanted to do was find out relative to the center line. We know that the Miata is 2 7/16 below that center line. So it's 22 7/16 from the bottom of the floor pan up. So it gives me a rough measurement, plus or minus the thickness of the sheet metal. And then I just started to go along at about 10 inches out on the Miata. That's going to be 4 1/16 down. And this one I'm a little less sure of, but it shows it's 8 9/16 on the Miata out. So the Miata has a width to this outside edge of 52 3/8. The Astre to this outside edge to outside edge is 51 5/8. So what I'm thinking of doing is cutting down to here, actually creating a line there, and then maybe coming down another 1.5 inches or so, just to give myself a cut line. Because what I'd like to be able to do is possibly fold up that Miata edge once it's lined up, excuse me, and overlap those two, so I could do a 1.5 inch lap weld all the way along here. And then we'll do the same type of lap welds on the floor pan, and also under. I got to get this cowl box off, but get that cowl box off, and also all in through here. So if we have an 1.5-inch lap weld, plug weld through, also weld the seams top and bottom so the water doesn't get in, that should be pretty strong. It's January 11th, 2018. I'm finally getting a chance to work on the Astre some more, so I got some time this afternoon. So what I've done is marked all of the spot welds with a black permanent marker, and then I'm going through and center punching them, and I'm going to drill the weld out from at least one side, if not both. And I've also done 3 or 4 1/8-inch holes so they can come back if we ever have to put it back on or decide not to go this way. We can use those for Clecos and put everything back to where it was. Show you more as I make progress. Well, after a couple hours of work, probably an hour and a half, 2 hours, we got one panel off and discovered probably one or more rat's nests. Very strong rat. It looks like there's a t-shirt pulled in there, but it kind of gives you the idea of the inner structure, and that's the main reason that I wanted it to come apart, because this panel here wraps around, and that's one of the panels that the door hinge is welded onto. And then you've got maybe another inner panel here that makes up part of the inner kick panel cowl vent. So that's what I wanted to see. We will do some vacuuming and start learning a little bit more about this structure. I've been sitting here about the last half hour, maybe an hour. You lose track of time when you're contemplating and measuring and seeing how things are put together. So I'm feeling 150% more comfortable about removing this front sheet metal. I went up and added some more, like I had here. This is where the Miata is. This is kind of like the top line of the Miata. So I wanted to put the cut line up in here because this cut line is the top surface here. So it's about 23.5 inches. So we're going to keep all that structure. We'll separate that later. But looking in here, what I'm seeing is the scariest part of this is that, yes, we know this is shot, frame rail shot. So there's 2 or 3 layers of material in here. 1 or 2 layers of material in here. So this area up here is fairly strong. But if you were to take a heavy impact, this cowl box is 50, 60 thousandths, the outside piece. This structure here is 1 layer of material that's 50 thousandths thick. Your strength, this stuff is 60 or 80 thousandths. Then there's another layer in here that's welded onto it. So this material here is where your hinges bolt on. Then you have another box section back here that's welded on. And then this material, which kind of represents your inner surface of your kick panel, that's the 60 thousandths. So the only thing to carry that load when you're in an impact in the front, this is just going to crush and move that wheel back. But if we look on the Miata, that's double, if not triple layers down in here. So if we take all the way back into here, all the way across forward, this is a lot stronger structure. Since I'm in the removing material mode, I think I might take this whole rail off. So I've been debating, because it's Thursday, January 11th, 2018, and we are leaving next Tuesday for a week and a half, 2 weeks of vacation and training and things like that with my wife's business. So I didn't want to cut this up and leave it sit here and possibly move, but there's no structure up front. So I think I'm going to do is remove these spot welds here, which is the only thing that holds this panel on, take that off, And then what I see is there's only 3 layers here, so this main structure basically just wraps around, kind of butt welds onto here. So we just got a 90-degree bend from that main frame rail to the firewall right here. So let's cut it off there. I'm getting better at this. That was about 20 minutes. So went in again, just marked, I think we'll call that the outer front wheel rear splash guard. Keeps the mud out of the cowl box and out of the door area. So that is off. So I'm feeling a little bit more confident. You can see here, firewall, inner front frame rail, and then this is the outer. This piece here wraps around. So there was three layers there, but I still don't think it's super strong. Especially when you get back into here, this is what's going to crush this area in here. So my concept is I'm probably going to come up and keep this structure for now, just for the strength, and cut, because this is rusted out anyway, cut it here, cut it up underneath, all the way down. I might take some of this out, but I don't think I want to take out the floor pan yet, that floor pan section. So I might go underneath and stare at this a while longer and see what's the next place to give a cut. When I find out, I'll let you all know. One last video of the rusted area before I cut it apart forever. So the inner panel, hope it shows up in the light, but it is completely rusted through. If we go out to the outer panel, this is also completely rusted through. So this corner is not supported by that frame rail at all. So the radiator core support is free to flop in the breeze. Here's a good view of that. Completely separated. So we don't have to cut it there. Well, I think we have reached the point of no return. Bubba, hold your breath. So I cut the first major piece out, so there is no going back now. Here it is. So that's just the front corner, passenger side. I decided to keep the radiator core support for now because all the dimensions seem to line up pretty close with the Miata. So I am going to keep the core support for now. Probably won't use it, but it also helps with the strength. And for my own concern, this stayed rigid, so I figured it would. With a triple layer of sheet metal all together, that was the biggest thing I was concerned about, is this drooping or sagging and us losing our location. So I had done some measurements back to a couple different spots just to make sure, but pretty strong. So I'll now go and, can't see it on here, but there's still some of the inner fender layer left, and bottom part that attaches into the floor pan. So I'll go ahead and get that out and start on the other side tomorrow. And to think, Bubba, we spent a whole week rebuilding that section on your Vega. Now you got spare parts.